Mercedes all-electric SUV called EQC is in production now. I don't think a lot of people know that, and it's coming to the United States in the beginning of the next year. I'm really excited about it because it is actually a pretty good SUV. Obviously, that's how they can compete with Tesla in terms of luxury and just being a real SUV. The ranges probably could be better. Could be better. Definitely cannot compete with Tesla as much, though they have the 2 in front of it, a little bit into 200-mile EPA range. Now, I had a privilege to ride along in one during CES in the beginning of this year. But now when I went to Frankfurt Auto Show, I was able to finally drive one. Now, I was trying to make a video as I was driving it, but Frankfurt traffic was so hectic, I just could not pay attention and try talking to you guys in a camera and still trying not to die. So and you know, the best part is Tom Moloughney of InsideEVs was riding with me. He was there in Frankfurt. So not only we had this experience together, we were able to talk in person. So this is our second video in a row when you get to see us in person, because today is the day for his segment that's called Plugged In with Tom Moloughney. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our experience, and then I'm going to show you the footage of my interview with Tom at the Mercedes-Benz Hall in Frankfurt. Welcome to E4Electric, your #1 source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, so I know the market, I want to say, is being flooded by electric cars and SUVs, so not everybody kind of keeps track, but this is a good car. This is a great, first of all, it's a Mercedes. It looks like a Mercedes, and I would say, so here's the thing, I think this is the best looking SUV on the market, period. Even over e-tron, Model X and so forth, and even I-Pace. Even an I-Pace, though it's very close there. It's really luxury and quiet inside. Definitely enjoyed driving it. It was an interesting experience because the traffic was so hectic. We were able to floor it a few times. I do have to say that they do like a Bolt. I felt like it had a little bit of a delay, but it was very powerful. And their main thing, I guess, is that it's very quiet and luxurious. And you know, this is something that obviously a lot of people have complained that it's missing from Teslas. Well, if 220 mile EPA range is enough for you, this is a great alternative. Just like I said, it's going to be available here in the United States in a while. But here's a picture of me driving. I am smiling in that picture, but I literally think that this is the only moment I was smiling because I was literally trying not to die there. The traffic was just insane. This is our car that I took a picture of, kind of tried to make a romantic, we're in Frankfurt type of a picture. So definitely like interesting color, actually, matte color. And you know, I already made a video about EQS, which they've announced at the Frankfurt Auto Show, which will essentially replace the S-Class, and that's great. They're pushing forward. At the same time, they've also unveiled EQV, which is all-electric van. Just didn't have time to cover that. I'm sorry, we're just running around so much. We only had a few days there. So yeah, so like without, you know, let's bring in Tom, and I'll show you the interview. He's got his own impression about it. Before that, of course, a quick reminder that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton with their all-electric SUV coming to the US, coming to Europe, starting at about 45,000 euros, about 45,000 American dollars. A year and a half or so. Don't forget to get in a reservation queue. Costs $0. There's absolutely no deposit, about 60 seconds of your time. So really, there is no reason not to. Go to the description of this video to reserve your Byton today. All right, without further ado, let me bring in Tom, and this is a conversation we had about a week ago in Frankfurt, Germany. All right, so we had such a great time hanging out here in Frankfurt, Germany, that we decided to make a second video, and our viewers will enjoy it a week later. But we're not talking about a topic that's necessarily breaking news, but we both got to enjoy actually driving. And by joy, I think it's a vague term because we have to drive through Frankfurt streets. That was not easy, but we got to drive the car in a real life scenario, if you will. And you know, it's already a relatively, I wouldn't say big hit, but it's done very well in Europe, and it's coming to the United States and North America in the beginning of the next year. What's your impression of your drive, and how do you think it's going to do in the US?
So it's tough to say. We don't have final pricing yet for the US, so it's hard to say how well it's going to do. I like it. I probably like it a little bit more than the e-tron even, and that's personal preference because I prefer smaller vehicles. This is smaller than the e-tron. It's probably right in the middle of the e-tron and the Jaguar I-Pace in terms of size. So I kind of like this size of a crossover. So I'm biased in that way. But for me, you know, I know driving was tough, as Alex said. We were in city streets. We were trying to understand where to go. We couldn't read the street signs. I made a wrong turn and we ended up in some parking garage somewhere, and then we had to figure out how to get back. But in any event, I might have enjoyed it a little bit more than you. It seemed like you were kind of really not happy with the experience because we were in traffic and we really couldn't open it up. But we found a couple straightaways to punch it a few times. So I enjoyed it.
I wasn't happy with the car. I was happy with the car, actually. I really like it. I wasn't happy with my navigation system that kept talking over me. You know, I was trying to make a video, people tried to cut me off. But, okay, you know, the car was a nice drive, right? I do have to say that it did take like a tiny 1/10 of a second, you know, from the moment you floor it to the moment it actually responds. But once it responds, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that was something that we both noted that, and perhaps, I don't know, perhaps this wasn't a production car. I mean, it should be. They're making them now. But one thing that we did both note was, unlike most electric cars, there seemed to be that slight hesitation when you just stomp on the accelerator. It didn't just throw you back that instant. Like you had that, as you said, 1/10 of a second or whatever kind of delay. Certainly not as bad as ICE, but it wasn't that kind of instant takeoff that we've come to love with electric vehicles. So that was a little strange that we felt a slight hesitation. But as you mentioned, once that 1/10 of a second is gone, the car takes off. And we punched it a couple times, and probably in areas that we shouldn't have. But on these tiny little narrow streets with people walking by us. But we managed to get a couple of good runs in.
Things that we do for you guys, just so you know.
And it's got power. I don't think anybody is going to complain that the EQC is underpowered. You know, people probably aren't going to buy these to go on drag strips like some Tesla owners do. So for the customer that's going to buy an EQC, I don't think anybody's going to complain that it's underpowered. And I also don't think very many people will even notice that slight hesitation. We do, because we do this for a living. We drive every electric car in the market. We live with electric cars, you know, so I think we are a little bit more sensitive to that than the average person, especially if there's somebody coming from an internal combustion engine Mercedes and then hops in this, they're going to think that it's instant. You know, we're just hypersensitive to that, I think.
I think anybody who's driven an electric car, especially Tesla before, especially on a regular basis, I think would notice. But I do have to say there was a very smooth and quiet ride. So, and I think that's what Mercedes is going after, rather than, you know, it is an SUV. That one I did enjoy.
Absolutely. It was extremely quiet and very smooth, even though we're driving on cobblestone streets, you know, that were probably made 1,000 years ago or whatever. But you know, the ride quality is what you'd expect from Mercedes. You can obviously tell that what Mercedes wanted to do here was make a very easy transition from their ICE customers to their plug-in car customers. And they didn't want people to think that there was any difference, that they're in a Mercedes, it just happens to be now powered by electric. It's probably, though we didn't get to drive it on the highway at highway speeds, but for the driving that we did, it's one of the quietest SUVs EVs I've ever been in.
Now let's talk about, you know, how do you think it's going to do in North America? You know, it is coming on the market when I-Pace has been around for a while, obviously Model X, e-tron is on the market, and you know, lower priced EVs that are really great, Niro EV and Hyundai Kona EV. You know, it's a bit crowded. How do you think it's going to do? What do you think its advantages are and disadvantages are as well?
Yeah, so as far as how it's going to do, I think that really is dependent on what the final MSRP is going to be. You know, it's kind of sandwiched in between e-tron and I-Pace. Price-wise, I'm not sure. Range is about the same. I don't know if you noticed, but when we got in the car, it was just about fully charged, and it was showing like about 200 miles of range. So this is going to come in very similarly to the e-tron's 205-mile EPA range rating, in my opinion. We'll see, but I think it's going to hover around 200 miles. I think as long as it begins with a 2, most of the customers are going to feel comfortable with that.
Agreed.
And as far as how the sales are, is Mercedes going to offer an attractive lease? deal on it. That seems to drive a lot of electric vehicle sales. BMW, when they have good incentives and good lease deals on the i3, they sell a bunch of them. They pull those lease deals back, the car doesn't sell. So it depends on how much Mercedes wants to sell these. It's an expensive car. Mercedes customers are used to spending $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. So if they're going after their own customers, that's not going to be a problem. Now, if they're looking for this as a conquest vehicle to take Tesla owners, they might struggle with that. It has a little bit of a different package than what Tesla's offering. It has a different, say, fit, finish, and feel. This is a Mercedes. The interior is 100% Mercedes. The quality, build quality is better. It doesn't have the range, it doesn't have the performance, but what is a customer that's looking for a small crossover looking for? Do they want luxury and comfort, or do they want speed and performance? I think some people go in both camps, but I think more people are looking for the luxury and comfort. I think those people can be swayed if Mercedes offers a decent lease deal on them.
I agree. I do have to say that a lot of times I see, with Porsche Taycan, I said it many times that I think, one of the easiest way to compete with Tesla is create a great interior, a luxury design. You can definitely compete. I thought Porsche Taycan failed at that, but I think the Mercedes, because it looks very much like a regular Mercedes inside, I think they might attract some people who really want a well-built luxury interior. But also I have to say, I'm digging I'm not an SUV guy, but I'm really digging the design. I think out of all the SUVs that are on the market right now, I like this one the best in almost any color. Obviously my favorite color is black, but even the ones behind us, white, I think it's the most beautiful one. What do you think?
I like the look of it. I do like how they dealt with the front area. That was going to be a question, how Mercedes dealt with their prominent Mercedes grille. I kind of like how that looks, how they've incorporated the Mercedes look, but still had a sealed front. I also like, we're getting a little bit off of aesthetics now. I do like how they incorporated the regenerative braking system with the paddles on the steering wheel. I'm a big fan of having the paddles on the steering wheel. I think customers are going to like that. You pull it in, the car really abruptly slows down.
I didn't get to try it. I was in the middle of having a panic attack. I think that's why I didn't try it. Well, but you liked it.
I liked it. I think you were really focused as much on doing
not dying,
driving, and not dying. Yeah. So it was an interesting test drive, but I enjoyed it, and I was able to finally get behind the wheel. I've driven in EQCs before, but I haven't actually taken the wheel. This was my first time. It was a good experience. Nothing that I felt or observed would dissuade me from wanting to get one. That, from before, I'm certainly not dissuaded. The steering felt kind of crisp. We didn't get to push it. We didn't get to do heavy corners. I'm assuming this isn't going to corner like a sports car. Mercedes probably has a suspension set up for comfort and luxury. That said, when I did my test ride out in Red Rock Canyon, the driver worked for Mercedes, one of the engineers. He was carving up those turns like crazy. Now, they might have set the car up for that and adjusted the suspension, but if the car performs like that, then I think even people that are looking for performance are going to be happy with it, because we were really getting on it, and the car was able to take the turns at pretty well.
Can we agree that the navigation user interface still sucks?
Well, I wasn't impressed with it. I would like to spend more time with it, because sometimes it takes a couple days to get used to a system. But yeah, the initial impressions, I was not happy with it.
Well, as a former UX designer doing it for 20 years, usually if you have to learn something, that means it's a bad user interface,
Yeah.
But
no, I agree. One of the things that I do like about my Tesla, and again, we've talked about this before, I'm not necessarily a Tesla fanboy. I really like my Model 3, but I also understand that it's not the perfect vehicle, and Elon's not a god that you bow to. But one of the things that I'm really impressed with my Model 3 was the user experience, how you get into the car, everything just works. And Tesla is way ahead of the competition on that. They're certainly ahead of BMW. I have the i3 with their iDrive system, and from what I could tell in the short period, they're ahead of Mercedes.
All right, now, you're talking about price. I know we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but what do you think the range would be? What would be a price that would be surprisingly low, but realistically so? And when do you think they're going to go a little too high, again, like Porsche did?
So, I mean, what I would love to see this begin with a 6, with the initial pricing.
Wow.
You know, I fear it,
With all the nines after that, right?
yeah, I fear that, you know, it won't, and they'll follow, you know, some of the other premium automakers EVs and come up a little bit higher, you know, well into the 70s. If this were to be able to start somewhere, you know, in the $60,000, $65,000 range, I think it would make a compelling argument, you know, as to get, as opposed to e-tron or the I-Pace. But if they go really right head-to-head with the e-tron is a bigger vehicle, and so it does have more utility. And I think that they might have a little bit of a rub there if people are looking at the two cars and saying, well, here's the Mercedes, here's the e-tron. They're both premium vehicles. They both have great fit and finish. They go the same, both go about 200 miles. They're the same price, but the, you know, e-tron is, you know, 15, 20% bigger. You know, it might make a tough argument. Also, the e-tron can charge at 150 kilowatts, and the EQC tops out at 110. And some of the people that I've talked to that have driven it in Europe on the fast chargers are saying that it really only even hits the 110 for a super short period of time at a very low state of charge, that even once you get up to 30 or 40% charge, it drops down well under 100 kilowatts. So, you know, I haven't been able to test the charging, but I would imagine the e-tron's going to charge faster than this, so that has an advantage there. And also even level 2 charging for home charging, it's limited to 7.4 kilowatts, and the e-tron can charge at, I think, 9.6 or even 11.5. I have to check on that, but it's definitely not 7.4. It's higher than what the Mercedes can. So Audi has the advantage on charging. So it's a bigger vehicle. I think Mercedes has to be reasonable with their pricing if they expect to move many of these.
Do you think the customers who will be on the market for this car would be current Mercedes customers? Do you think they can steal some from Tesla and maybe Audi and Jaguar? Or do you think it's, you know, combustion engine, the gas car current drivers that will actually go for that?
Well, I think Mercedes would be smart to try to move combustion engine customers into this vehicle, you know, preferably conquest sales from other brands. Easier said than done. You know, the easy pickings is their own customers, the people that come into the showroom that are interested, don't even know this exists, that say, hey, you know, do you know we have an electric car? Do you know we have great lease deals? Do you know it'll cost you like next to nothing to charge? There's no maintenance. Whether or not they do that, you know, we've talked about dealership issues for a long time now, and I think that's a good way to get people into this vehicle. We'll have to wait and see. It seems like pretty much every automaker is stumbling over how to get people into their EVs. Maybe Mercedes will do it better.
I do have to say I'm looking forward to this car being on the market in North America and see how it does. I'm definitely going to root for it. I really have no problems with this car. I do think it's the best looking electric SUV I've seen. That's where my enthusiasm kind of ends, though that's a lot for a lot of people. So I'm excited about it. Let's see how it does. Maybe we'll do a follow-up next year, and obviously we talk about sales all the time. You know, InsideEVs that you contribute to a regular basis does a great job on monthly sales numbers for the US sales. So we'll keep track of that. Before we go, of course, tell everybody where they can find you and follow you.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm a regular contributor on InsideEVs. You can check out our site. We do a great job with our monthly EV sales scorecard. Most of the industry comes and uses our data to see where the sales are at. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Tom Moloughney.
And you should, because you get in a lot of a little, I wouldn't say fights, but start a little Twitter wars like you did today with Ford, actually. Tell us what you said and tell us why, though I agree with you.
So I awarded Ford the Shame on You award of this Frankfurt Auto Show for their advertising. They've got this huge stand, and it says electric everything, you know, electric for all, electrification, all their banners, all their signs, everything's electric. So you go over to their site, there's no electric cars. They've got
best there's like plug-in hybrids with 20-mile range, right?
They've got a couple plug-in hybrids there, and then a bunch of hybrids, but not a single all-electric car. So they win the Frankfurt Auto Show Shame on You award.
And they really did have more chargers than the actual plug-in hybrid cars, right?
They had a whole wall of charging stations set up, but there were no cars near it that could plug in. It was like, really? I mean, maybe, you know, I've been to enough auto shows to know the automakers move cars and things around during the show days. Maybe if you come back when the show's open, because obviously it's press preview right now and the show's not open to the public, maybe when they open up to the public, they're going to put some of their plug-in hybrids in front of it and plug them in or something like that. But they've got this wall of charging stations and no cars to plug in.
All right, well, this is one of many reasons to follow Tom on Twitter. So it's been great hanging out here with you, man. I love doing this segment in person, and I think our audience does. And of course, we look forward to all of the comments.
All right, see you in the States.
All right, another discussion with Tom. Love our segments here on this channel, and it's even better in person. I think we got a lot of feedback that, you know, us talking in person is even more fun. You know, we do when we can. We live on different, you know, sides of the country here. So when we do get invited to events, we definitely do it. Like this week, we got invited to two different events. He's actually test driving Porsche Taycan in Europe. I was at the Faraday Future event. So I guess we cover as much as possible, but hopefully we'll talk about his experience when he's on the show next. So definitely let us know your thoughts about the EQC. Maybe if you're in Europe and you're driving one, definitely give us your feedback, and let us know if you're shopping for an electric car. Are you considering this as your next electric vehicle? Of course, don't forget to subscribe to our free newsletter. Second free thing in the description of this video, or you can just go to e4electric.com/VIP. That way you'll get our bonus stories every Saturday. And of course, thank you so much to one of my newer Patreons, Jason Claremont. Or Claremonte. Jason, thank you so much for contributing to my community, to me, because this is what I do. This is my full-time job. So thank you for joining my Patreon community. Thank you to all my Patreons for being part of really my life and letting me do this for a living. If you want to join, go to patreon.com/e4electric. Of course, that link is also in the description of this video. All right, looking forward to your comments. Other than that, see you next time, and remember to stay charged.